Here is the section of the Emergencies Act in Canada that describes what a national emergency is and describes what the threshold for using the Emergencies Act is. It says A, seriously endangers the lives, health, or safety of Canadians and is of such proportions or nature as to exceed the capacity or authority of a province to deal with, or seriously threatens the ability of the Government of Canada to preserve the sovereignty, security, and territorial integrity of Canada, and that cannot be effectively dealt with under any other law of Canada. Now, the Freedom Convoy protests in Ottawa did not meet this threshold. In fact, the Government of Canada did not even pretend that it did, because it doesn't matter anymore. Nothing matters in Canada anymore. The law doesn't matter. And we know it doesn't matter in Canada anymore because, well, let me read this. Trudeau's invocation of the Emergencies Act justified. So the Emergencies Act Commission, chaired by Paul Rouleau, has put together about a 2,000-page report and let us all know what we all knew all along. Teflon Trudeau has gotten away with it again. And you know what's interesting, too? The commissioner of the commission, Paul Rouleau, was handpicked by Trudeau for that. Isn't that interesting? Now, I bet if there was a commission that was tasked with ruling whether or not you were justified in doing something, I'll bet you wouldn't mind picking the commissioner yourself, handpicking somebody yourself. If you were Trudeau, you might pick somebody like Rouleau with long connections to the Liberal Party. You know, somebody who might be sympathetic to your cause, let's say. And you might even feel like you might even feel like you had the whole thing in the bag. Now, has Canada ever felt more like a banana republic? You know, and it's funny because Canada used to not feel like a banana republic at all. Let's read this again here. Seriously threatens the ability of the Government of Canada to preserve the sovereignty, security, and territorial integrity of Canada. Well, I mean, you know, if you're an insurrectionist group that's going to take over the government, you're not going to do it without bouncy castles and hot tubs. I mean, that's the first thing you're going to establish. Yeah, so, you know, at least no weapons, hot tubs, bouncy castles. Sounds like a national emergency to me. Or maybe not. I don't know. I remember stuff like this. You know, Windsor Mayor told the feds that the Ambassador Bridge was clear before the invocation of the Emergencies Act. So they didn't need it for that, did they? Huh. Let's see. During the commission, we heard that the RCMP didn't ask for the Emergencies Act to be invoked. Well, let's see. The RCMP commissioner said that the act was enormously helpful because I guess just martial law is helpful for police forces, I guess. But even then, they didn't ask for it. Our intelligence service, CSIS, told the government that the Freedom Convoy didn't pose a national security threat. That's the day before the Emergencies Act was invoked. They also never found that a foreign state was helping to organize or raise money for the convoy protests. But the CSIS head did say afterwards that none of it matters. They kind of felt like they had to use it, so that's enough. Law doesn't matter. It's Trudeau's Canada. He's already made the country a joke. Why stop now? Let's see. The main question the inquiry is charged with is answering whether the government was justified in invoking the act and granting themselves and police sweeping powers. The clerk of the Privy Council, essentially Trudeau's top bureaucratic lieutenant, claims that they were justified, but based on how the government felt about the situation, rather than meting out the test set out in law. Because as we've learned over the last 8 years, the law makes Justin Trudeau sad. Let's see, during this inquiry, this Emergencies Act inquiry, which was obviously a complete waste of time, we heard that the CSIS threat definition was not relevant to the Emergencies Act decision. Again, law doesn't actually matter. It's just how they feel. It's how Trudeau felt. Because, you know, those protesters, they were mean to him. They had mean signs. Here's something from SpencerFernando.com. He says that the Emergencies Act Commission report sets a dangerous precedent. He says the threshold for the use of significant government power has been lowered. Those cheering this on now may not be so pleased when another government is in office. Yes, that's because his most ardent supporters can't see further than their own shadow and are completely blind to the consequences of Trudeau's actions. I would say that they're going to learn to regret it, but hey, if they still support Trudeau, they're never going to learn, are they? As for Rouleau, he said this: I do not come to this conclusion easily, as I do not consider the factual basis for it to be overwhelming. Reasonable and informed people could reach a different conclusion than the one I have arrived at. Yeah, that's possible. I also reached this conclusion reluctantly. The state should generally be able to respond to circumstances of urgency without the use of emergency powers. Oh, so he's so sad that he left Trudeau off the hook. It's such a shame because the factual basis for it wasn't overwhelming, and reasonable and informed people could reach a different conclusion. This is to make Canada look a little bit less like a banana republic, and to try and make him look a little bit more fair. Now, I personally am not buying any of this. We know that this decision was preordained from the second that Trudeau hand-picked Rouleau to be the commissioner for the Emergencies Act Commission. In my opinion, I'm just going to speculate on that, I guess. But anyway, I'm not taking this as a black pill. I think that what's going to matter in the next election is going to be, inflation, like people being able to get food and like children's medicines. How about that? How about children's Tylenol? First world countries supposed to be able to have that kind of thing. Maybe Trudeau's plans for getting rid of like all gas-powered cars, just general poverty, the continued crumbling of our infrastructure, especially healthcare. Yeah, those are the things that are going to matter when the next election comes around. So I guess we can just let Trudeau have this right now, can't we? Because we know eventually, his time is coming. Anyway, please subscribe, like, and share. Sharing really helps me out. I thank you for that. I will see you next time.